The Super Mario Galaxy movie is a 2026 American animated adventure comedy film that continues the cinematic journey of one of the most recognizable video game franchises in history. Produced through a collaboration between Illumination and Nintendo, the movie serves as the sequel to the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which became a major worldwide success after its release in 2023. Rather than simply repeating the formula of the first film, the sequel expands the Mario universe beyond the familiar Mushroom Kingdom and takes its heroes into an entirely new environment, outer space. At the center of the story are Mario and Luigi, along with their friends and allies, who find themselves involved in an adventure that stretches far beyond the world they previously knew. Their journey introduces audiences to cosmic locations, strange planets, powerful enemies, mysterious creatures, and new characters connected to the wider mythology of the Mario games. The film draws heavily from Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, two games that transformed the traditional Mario formula by taking the character away from conventional landscapes and placing him among planets, stars, galaxies, and other cosmic environments. The basic premise is built around an enormous threat involving Bowser and his son Bowser Jr. While Bowser was the primary villain of the previous movie, the sequel expands the conflict by introducing a new generation of antagonistic energy through Bowser Jr. Their actions create a situation in which Mario, Luigi, and their friends must travel through space in order to protect Princess Rosalina and prevent a much larger danger from threatening the worlds connected to the galaxy. The film therefore represents an important development for the Mario cinematic universe. The first movie introduced audiences to the characters and established their basic relationships. The sequel takes those foundations and makes the world considerably larger. Instead of focusing primarily on Mario's discovery of the Mushroom Kingdom and his battle against Bowser, the second movie explores what exists beyond that kingdom. The decision to move the story into space is particularly important because Super Mario Galaxy is one of the most visually and conceptually ambitious games in the Mario franchise. The game introduced players to a world where planets could be extremely small, gravity could change from location to location, and Mario could travel between completely different celestial environments. Translating those ideas into an animated feature gives the filmmakers enormous creative freedom. The story also continues the partnership between Nintendo and Illumination. Nintendo brings decades of knowledge about Mario and his surrounding characters, while Illumination is known for creating highly accessible animated entertainment built around comedy, expressive characters, colorful environments, and family-friendly storytelling. The combination of these two companies became particularly important following the success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The idea of producing additional animated films based on Nintendo properties had already been discussed before the first Mario movie was released. Nintendo's interest in animation reflected a broader desire to expand its characters into different forms of entertainment. Mario was an obvious starting point because he is one of Nintendo's most recognizable characters and has an enormous international fan base. However, the success of the first movie dramatically changed the possibilities. The Super Mario Bros. Movie demonstrated that a video game adaptation could attract audiences far beyond traditional gamers. Children could enjoy the colorful animation and comedy, longtime Mario players could recognize familiar characters and locations, and adults who grew up with Nintendo could appreciate the references and nostalgic elements. That success naturally created expectations for a sequel. The announcement of another animated Mario film therefore represented more than simply another Hollywood sequel. It suggested that Nintendo and Illumination were interested in developing Mario as a larger cinematic universe. The first movie established the basic world. The second film could now explore more unusual corners of it. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic return as directors for the sequel, bringing continuity from the previous movie. Their return is significant because maintaining the same directing team can help preserve the visual identity, comedic style, and characterization established in the original film. Matthew Fogel also returns as the screenwriter. This provides another important connection between the two films. Fogel's involvement allows the sequel to build upon the personalities and relationships that audiences already know while introducing new ideas associated with the Galaxy games. Chris Pratt once again voices Mario, while Anya Taylor-Joy returns as Princess Peach, Charlie Day continues as Luigi, Jack Black returns as Bowser, and Keegan-Michael Key returns as Toad. Their participation provides continuity for the central cast. Mario remains the heart of the story. His defining characteristics are his courage, determination, optimism, and willingness to protect the people he cares about. But the sequel places him in circumstances that are much more unfamiliar than those of the previous movie. Space represents a completely different kind of environment for Mario, and this allows the character to experience a new kind of adventure. Luigi is equally important because his relationship with Mario has always been one of the emotional foundations of the franchise. The first film placed significant emphasis on the brothers' relationship, particularly their loyalty toward each other. A sequel can build upon this dynamic by placing both brothers in a dangerous environment where teamwork becomes even more important. Mario and Luigi are not simply two characters traveling through space. They represent the central theme of family and partnership that has existed throughout the franchise. Mario may often appear to be the fearless hero, but Luigi's presence reminds the audience that Mario's strength is partly connected to the people around him. Princess Peach also remains a major figure. The previous film portrayed Peach as a capable leader rather than simply a character waiting to be rescued. Her involvement in the sequel continues that direction and helps establish her as an active participant in the larger adventure. One of the most significant new characters is Princess Rosalina, portrayed by Brie Larson. Rosalina is particularly appropriate for a story inspired by Super Mario Galaxy because she is one of the most important characters associated with that game series. Her presence changes the nature of the story. In the traditional Mario formula, Princess Peach is frequently at the center of conflicts involving Bowser. Rosalina, however, connects Mario's world to the larger cosmic mythology of the Galaxy games. She is associated with the stars, the cosmos, and the mysterious forces that exist beyond ordinary kingdoms. Introducing Rosalina therefore signals that the movie is not simply putting Mario on a spaceship and sending him into space. Instead, it is attempting to explore the mythology and atmosphere that made Super Mario Galaxy different from other Mario games. Another major addition is Bowser Jr., portrayed by Safdie. Bowser Jr. is one of the most recognizable characters introduced into the Mario franchise after the original generation of characters. His inclusion creates a new dimension to Bowser's role as a villain. Bowser is no longer simply the powerful king attempting to defeat Mario. He is also a father. That relationship provides opportunities for comedy, conflict, and emotional development. Bowser Jr.'s personality can also serve as a contrast to his father's larger-than-life behavior. The relationship between Bowser and Bowser Jr. could potentially become one of the movie's most interesting elements. Bowser is traditionally presented as intimidating but frequently comedic, while Bowser Jr. can be mischievous, ambitious, and emotionally connected to his father. Their partnership creates a different kind of villainous dynamic from the first film. The central conflict involves Mario and his allies facing Bowser and Bowser Jr. while attempting to save Princess Rosalina. This means the movie combines several important Mario elements: the hero, the villain, family relationships, princess mythology, and the cosmic setting of the Galaxy games. The inspiration from Super Mario Galaxy is especially important because that game changed how Mario adventures could be structured. In earlier Mario games, Mario generally moved through connected levels and traditional environments. He traveled through forests, deserts, oceans, castles, underground areas, and other recognizable settings. Super Mario Galaxy introduced a much more surreal approach. Each planet could have its own gravitational rules, visual identity, and gameplay mechanics. A movie inspired by that concept can therefore move rapidly between wildly different environments. One moment Mario might be traveling across a small spherical planet. The next moment he could be flying through a field of stars, landing on a completely different world, or encountering an unfamiliar creature. This gives the animation team an opportunity to create sequences that would be difficult to reproduce in a conventional fantasy adventure. Super Mario Galaxy 2 provides another source of inspiration. The sequel to the game expanded the original Galaxy concept and introduced additional environments, mechanics, characters, and challenges. By drawing from both Galaxy games, the film can incorporate a broader selection of ideas instead of limiting itself to a single game story. The reference to other Nintendo games, including the Star Fox series, also suggests a larger ambition. Star Fox is strongly associated with space travel, futuristic technology, spacecraft, and interplanetary adventures. Elements inspired by that franchise can help make the movie's space setting feel more dynamic. This is significant because Nintendo's library contains many properties that could potentially contribute ideas to a cinematic universe. A Mario film that explores space creates opportunities for subtle connections, visual references, Easter eggs, and concepts drawn from Nintendo's broader history. The decision to expand into space also represents a natural progression for the film series. The first movie begins with Mario and Luigi as ordinary Brooklyn-based plumbers who are suddenly pulled into a fantastical world. The sequel can assume that audiences already understand the basic concept of portals and alternate worlds. Therefore, the filmmakers can move directly into a much larger adventure. This is one of the advantages of a successful first film. The sequel does not have to spend the same amount of time explaining who Mario is, who Luigi is, what the Mushroom Kingdom is, or why Bowser is dangerous. Those foundations have already been established. Instead, the filmmakers can concentrate on expansion. The world becomes larger, the enemies become more unusual, the locations become more spectacular, and the mythology becomes deeper. The film's comedy remains an important part of its identity. Mario has always balanced adventure with humor, and Illumination's style naturally emphasizes expressive characters, physical comedy, fast-paced jokes, and colorful visual gags. Bowser is particularly well suited to this approach. His intimidating appearance contrasts with the comedic situations that can surround him. Bowser Jr. provides another opportunity for humorous interactions, especially because the relationship between an enormous fire-breathing villain and his energetic son can generate comedic situations. Mario and Luigi also offer a different type of humor. Their brotherly relationship allows the film to use arguments, misunderstandings, nervous reactions, competition, and teamwork as recurring sources of comedy. But underneath the comedy is a straightforward emotional structure. Characters must depend on one another. That theme is important because cosmic adventures can easily become overwhelming. When the setting becomes larger, the emotional center needs to remain simple. Mario cares about Luigi. Luigi cares about Mario. Their friends matter to them. They must work together against a threat that is larger than any individual character. This emotional foundation helps keep the story accessible even as the world expands. Before the first movie's release, there was already interest in producing additional Nintendo animated films. But the enormous commercial success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie made a follow-up far more attractive. The sequel was announced as being in development at Illumination in March 2024. Returning filmmakers helped ensure that the new movie would remain connected to the creative approach of the original. The release of the Super Mario Galaxy movie in 2026 therefore came relatively soon after the first film. This helped maintain momentum and allowed the Mario cinematic universe to remain relevant to audiences. The movie premiered at Monomuseum in Kyoto on March 28, 2026. Its theatrical release in the United States followed on April 1 through Universal Pictures. The choice of Kyoto for the premiere is particularly meaningful in the context of Nintendo's history. Nintendo is deeply connected to Japan, and Mario is one of the company's most internationally recognized creations. Holding a premiere in Kyoto gives the film a symbolic connection to the cultural and corporate origins of the franchise. The American theatrical release then allowed the movie to reach the enormous international market that had already embraced the first film. Despite the popularity of the characters and the success of the previous movie, the critical response to the sequel was described as mixed to negative. This creates an interesting contrast between critical reception and audience-driven commercial performance. A movie does not necessarily need universal critical praise to become commercially successful. Mario has an enormous existing fan base, and the first movie established a powerful audience for the cinematic version of the franchise. The Super Mario Galaxy movie ultimately grossed $1.011 billion worldwide against a reported production budget of $110 million. This made it one of the biggest films of 2026 and placed it among the most successful video game adaptations ever released. The financial performance is particularly important because video game movies historically struggled to achieve the same level of mainstream acceptance as other major Hollywood franchises. For decades, video game adaptations were often viewed as risky projects. Some struggled because filmmakers attempted to change the source material too dramatically. Others failed to capture the personality of the games. The Mario films demonstrated that a video game adaptation could instead embrace its source material and use recognizable elements as a strength. The success of the Super Mario Galaxy movie therefore represents a continuation of that trend. Its billion-dollar performance demonstrates that audiences were willing to return to the Mario universe even after the first film. It also suggests that the cinematic Mario franchise had become more than a one-time experiment. The movie's commercial success could have broader consequences for Nintendo and Illumination. For Nintendo, successful animated movies provide another way to introduce its characters to people who may not play the games. Someone who watches a Mario movie may become interested in Mario games afterward. Likewise, longtime gamers can experience familiar characters in a new format. This creates a connection between cinema and gaming that benefits both sides. For Illumination, Mario represents one of the most recognizable properties with which the studio has ever worked. The collaboration also demonstrates how animation studios can work with game companies while preserving the visual and thematic identity of established franchises. The most important aspect of the Super Mario Galaxy movie may therefore be its role as an expansion of the Mario cinematic universe. The first film essentially opened the door. The second film walks through it. By taking Mario into space, introducing Rosalina, bringing in Bowser Jr., drawing from Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2, and incorporating ideas associated with other Nintendo properties, the movie creates a much larger playground for future stories. It also demonstrates that Mario's cinematic world does not have to remain limited to the Mushroom Kingdom. There are galaxies beyond it. There are planets beyond it. There are characters and threats that exist outside the traditional Mario formula. And there are potentially many more Nintendo properties that could influence future films. The story's cosmic setting also fits Mario perfectly because the franchise has always been defined by imagination. Mario's worlds do not follow ordinary rules. Pipes can transport characters between dimensions. Mushrooms can change a person's size. Stars can provide extraordinary powers. Planets can float in space. Gravity can change from one location to another. The galaxy concept therefore does not feel completely foreign to Mario. It feels like an extension of the imaginative logic that has always existed within the games. That is why the movie's central idea is so important. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is not simply a sequel that gives Mario another villain to defeat. It represents a deliberate attempt to broaden the scale of the franchise while keeping its fundamental identity intact. Mario is still Mario. Luigi is still Luigi. Bowser remains a major threat. Peach remains an important ally. But the universe around them has become much larger. The arrival of Princess Rosalina provides a bridge between the familiar Mario world and the mysterious cosmic mythology of the Galaxy games. Bowser Jr. adds a new family dynamic to the villainous side of the story. The return of the original cast preserves continuity. The involvement of returning directors and screenwriter maintains a connection to the first movie. Together, these elements create a sequel that is designed to feel familiar and new at the same time. Ultimately, the Super Mario Galaxy movie can be understood as the next stage in Mario's transformation from a video game character into a broader multimedia cinematic icon. The first film proved that audiences around the world were willing to watch Mario's adventures on the big screen. The second film tests how far that audience will follow him. Instead of keeping Mario inside the familiar boundaries of the Mushroom Kingdom, the filmmakers take him into the stars. Instead of relying only on characters from the first film, the story introduces important figures from the broader Mario mythology. Instead of repeating the original adventure, the sequel uses the Galaxy games as inspiration for a more expansive setting. Its mixed-to-negative critical response demonstrates that commercial success and critical approval can exist independently. Nevertheless, its billion-dollar worldwide gross shows the enormous strength of the Mario brand and the continued demand for animated video game adaptations. Most importantly, the film establishes that Mario's cinematic universe has room to grow. The journey from Brooklyn to the Mushroom Kingdom was only the beginning. The journey from the Mushroom Kingdom into outer space represents a much bigger step. Mario and Luigi are no longer simply discovering a hidden fantasy world. They are becoming travelers through a universe filled with different worlds, characters, dangers, and possibilities. That is the central significance of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. It expands the scale of Mario while preserving the elements that made the character beloved in the first place: adventure, friendship, family, comedy, colorful worlds, imaginative challenges, and the determination to keep moving forward no matter how impossible the situation becomes. By bringing together Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, Bowser Jr., Rosalina, and a large cosmic setting inspired by some of Nintendo's most imaginative games, the movie transforms the sequel into something larger than a simple continuation. It becomes a statement about how far the Mario universe can go. And with a worldwide box office total exceeding $1 billion, the commercial result suggests that audiences were ready to make that journey. The Super Mario Galaxy movie expands the world introduced in the Super Mario Bros. Movie by taking Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach, Toad, Yoshi, Bowser, and several new characters beyond the Mushroom Kingdom and into the vastness of outer space. While the first film was largely focused on Mario's introduction to the Mushroom Kingdom and his confrontation with Bowser, the 2026 sequel dramatically increases the scale of the adventure. The story introduces the cosmic mythology of the Mario universe, including Rosalina, the Lumas, the Comet Observatory, and several galaxies inspired by the Super Mario Galaxy games. At the center of the story is Princess Rosalina, a powerful cosmic figure who serves as the adoptive mother of the Lumas. Rosalina lives aboard the Comet Observatory, a gigantic celestial structure that travels through space. Her relationship with the Lumas gives her an important role as a protector and caretaker of the universe. However, her power eventually attracts the attention of Bowser Jr., who has developed a dangerous plan involving his father and a weapon capable of threatening the entire universe. The kidnapping of Rosalina immediately establishes the stakes of the story. Bowser Jr. does not simply want to defeat Mario and Luigi or conquer the Mushroom Kingdom. Instead, he wants to obtain Rosalina's extraordinary powers and use them to activate a universe-destroying cannon. His motivation is closely connected to his complicated relationship with Bowser. After Bowser was defeated by Mario and Luigi in the previous adventure, Princess Peach had him shrunken and effectively neutralized. Bowser Jr. sees his father's defeat as something that must be corrected. This gives Bowser Jr. a motivation that is more personal than simple villainy. He wants to honor his father, restore his strength, and prove himself as Bowser's son. Unfortunately, his determination pushes him toward increasingly dangerous decisions. Rosalina becomes the key to his plan because her cosmic powers could provide the energy necessary for his ultimate weapon. Meanwhile, Mario and Luigi are dealing with a completely different problem on Earth. They are summoned to investigate an unusual disturbance in Tostarena town. Instead of immediately discovering Bowser Jr.'s plan, the brothers encounter one of the film's most important new characters, Yoshi. Yoshi's introduction adds another emotional and comedic dimension to the story. Unlike the familiar inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom, Yoshi has an unusual connection to Mario's original home. He had hatched in Brooklyn and eventually became involved in an incident at a museum. After accidentally breaking a dinosaur skeleton, Yoshi found himself being pursued back toward his home world. This creates an amusing but meaningful parallel with Mario and Luigi. Yoshi is also a character who does not completely belong to the ordinary human world. His journey eventually leads him toward the extraordinary worlds beyond Brooklyn, just as Mario and Luigi's lives were transformed when they entered the Mushroom Kingdom. When Mario and Luigi encounter Yoshi, they initially have no idea how important he will become to their adventure. The brothers befriend him, and their relationship gradually develops into a genuine partnership. Yoshi is not merely included as a recognizable Nintendo character. His abilities become essential during the later stages of the story, particularly when Mario and Luigi are transformed into babies and desperately need someone capable of rescuing them. At the same time, Rosalina's disappearance does not remain unnoticed. One of the Lumas she cares for manages to reach the Mushroom Kingdom and seeks help. The small cosmic creature approaches Princess Peach and Toad, effectively becoming the messenger who connects the Mushroom Kingdom to the larger crisis taking place in space. Peach immediately understands that the situation is serious. Rosalina is not simply another princess who has been kidnapped. She is a powerful cosmic guardian, and her abilities are connected to forces that could affect entire galaxies. Peach and Toad therefore leave the Mushroom Kingdom to investigate the situation. Their departure creates an unusual situation for Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi. Instead of immediately leaving with Peach, they remain behind to protect the Mushroom Kingdom. The brothers also attempt something unusual with Bowser. They try to rehabilitate him. This part of the story gives Bowser a more complicated role than the traditional villain he has occupied throughout much of the Mario franchise. Bowser has already been defeated, and rather than simply destroying him, Mario and Luigi attempt to give him another chance. The idea is that Bowser could potentially change his behavior and become less destructive. However, Bowser's personality makes this difficult. His relationship with Mario and Luigi remains complicated, and the presence of his son makes the situation even more unstable. Bowser Jr. has not seen his father for years, and his actions demonstrate that he desperately wants his father's approval. The conflict escalates when Bowser Jr. attempts to lift Peach's castle into space. His objective is connected to freeing his father, demonstrating just how far he is willing to go to restore Bowser to power. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi confront Bowser Jr., and their battle causes his spaceship to lose control. As a result, Peach's castle is sent crashing into the Honey Hive galaxy. This moment is important because it physically transports the story away from the familiar Mushroom Kingdom. The movie begins to transform from a conventional Mario adventure into a genuine space fantasy journey. Instead of traveling between ordinary locations, the characters are now moving through galaxies filled with strange environments, cosmic creatures, and unusual dangers. Bowser himself becomes involved in another unexpected development. Mario encounters him and is goaded into attacking him. The attack has an unusual consequence. It reverses the condition that had caused Bowser to become shrunken. Bowser is once again restored to his normal size. This could have immediately resulted in another traditional Mario vs. Bowser confrontation, but the film takes a different approach. Bowser offers to be arrested for damaging the fields. In exchange, Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi can be transported to the Gateway Galaxy. This strange agreement reflects the complicated relationship between the characters. Bowser remains dangerous, stubborn, and selfish, but he is not presented as an entirely one-dimensional monster. His actions are increasingly connected to his relationship with Bowser Jr. Eventually, Bowser Jr. abducts his father. The fact that Bowser has not seen his son for years adds emotional weight to the situation. Bowser Jr. wants a relationship with his father, but he does not know how to achieve it in a healthy way. His attempt to prove his loyalty instead becomes the driving force behind an intergalactic crisis. While the Bowsers pursue their own agenda, Peach, Toad, and the Luma arrive in the Gateway Galaxy. Their adventure takes a more humorous turn when Toad's backpack is stolen. The thief is Yukiki, a mischievous monkey character who takes the backpack to a secret casino. This creates another side adventure within the larger story. Rather than simply following the main villain from one location to another, Peach and Toad must navigate an unfamiliar environment filled with tricks, distractions, and criminal activity. The casino is controlled by Wart, another character drawn from Nintendo's broader history. Peach eventually forces Wart to reveal what he knows about Rosalina. He gives them crucial information: Rosalina is being held in the space junk galaxy. However, Wart cannot resist informing the Bowsers about Peach's investigation. This immediately places Peach and her companions in greater danger. The film therefore maintains a constant sense that the characters are moving through a hostile universe in which information can easily fall into the wrong hands. Eventually, Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi reunite with Peach and Toad. Their group is now much larger, but reaching Rosalina still requires them to travel through space. They need someone capable of navigating the dangerous cosmic environment. That is where Fox McCloud enters the story. Fox is recruited as the group's pilot, giving the film another connection to Nintendo's wider collection of franchises. His appearance also reinforces the idea that the adventure has expanded beyond the traditional Mario universe. The characters are no longer simply traveling through the Mushroom Kingdom. They are now operating on a cosmic scale where heroes from different Nintendo worlds can become part of the same adventure. Fox pilots his R-Wing and transports the group through space. However, their journey does not go according to plan. Bowser Jr. attacks. The attack forces Fox's R-Wing to crash land into Fossil Falls. The crash creates another dangerous situation, but Bowser Jr. has an even more unusual weapon at his disposal, a Super Scope. Using the Super Scope, Bowser Jr. transforms Mario and Luigi into babies. This is one of the film's most comedic and chaotic developments. The two brothers who have repeatedly saved entire kingdoms suddenly lose their adult forms and are placed in a physically helpless condition. The transformation also creates an obvious challenge for Peach, Toad, Yoshi, and Fox, because Mario and Luigi cannot simply fight their way out of danger as they normally would. The brothers are eventually placed in even greater danger when a Tyrannosaurus appears. Mario and Luigi, now babies, are unable to defend themselves properly. Yoshi becomes the unexpected hero. Yoshi discovers the Super Scope and uses it to reverse the transformation. He also rescues Mario and Luigi from the dinosaur, demonstrating that he is not merely comic relief. Throughout the adventure, Yoshi gradually becomes an essential member of the team. Once Mario and Luigi return to their normal ages, the group can continue its mission. Luigi then realizes that the Lumas may be able to help them. His communication with them eventually leads to the group being taken aboard the Comet Observatory. The Comet Observatory becomes one of the film's most important locations. It is not simply a spaceship. It represents Rosalina's cosmic home and the connection between the characters and the larger universe. Inside the observatory, Peach discovers something that completely changes her understanding of herself. She shares a connection with Rosalina. Peach learns that she possesses the same powers as Rosalina and that the two women are actually long-lost sisters. This revelation dramatically expands Princess Peach's character. Until this point, Peach has been known primarily as the ruler and protector of the Mushroom Kingdom. Now the film reveals that her origins are connected to the cosmos itself. The revelation also explains why Peach is capable of interacting with cosmic forces in a way that ordinary characters cannot. Peach and Rosalina were born from stardust. Their existence is therefore connected directly to the cosmic mythology of the film. Their powers are not simply magical abilities that appeared without explanation. They are part of their shared origin. The sisters possess a special connection that becomes visible when they touch hands. Together, they can summon the power of the cosmos. This moment is particularly important because the story turns Peach from someone who needs to be rescued into someone who can actively influence the fate of the universe. Her connection to Rosalina gives her a direct role in the final conflict. The film also reveals the tragic circumstances that separated the sisters. Rosalina sent infant Peach away to the Mushroom Kingdom because she believed that Peach needed protection from an unknown attacker. This means that Peach's arrival in the Mushroom Kingdom was not simply a random event. It was part of a much larger story that began long before Mario ever met her. Peach's entire identity has therefore been shaped by a hidden cosmic history. This revelation also makes Rosalina's kidnapping much more personal. Peach is no longer simply trying to rescue another princess. She is attempting to save her sister. The story then moves toward its final confrontation. Fox, Toad, and the Lumas operate the Comet Observatory and help transport Mario, Peach, Luigi, and Yoshi toward the newly created planet Bowser. The destination is essentially the center of the final conflict. Planet Bowser represents the culmination of Bowser Jr.'s plans and the enormous scale of the threat facing the characters. The once familiar conflict between Mario and Bowser has evolved into a battle involving cosmic power, family relationships, and the fate of entire worlds. Mario and Peach confront Bowser on a bridge. The confrontation is symbolic. Mario and Bowser have repeatedly faced each other in previous adventures, but this time Peach is fighting alongside Mario rather than simply waiting for rescue. She is connected directly to the cosmic forces that Bowser Jr. is attempting to exploit. During the battle, Mario manages to knock Bowser from the bridge and into the lava moat below. For a moment, it appears that the conflict has ended. But Bowser survives. He emerges in skeletal form, transforming the final battle into an even more dramatic confrontation. This version of Bowser is visually more frightening and emphasizes the idea that he has become something beyond his ordinary physical form. Mario cannot defeat the Bowsers alone. Luigi and Yoshi join him, and the three heroes make use of power-ups to increase their abilities. Their teamwork becomes one of the most important aspects of the climax. Mario represents courage and determination. Luigi contributes his own bravery despite frequently being more cautious than his brother. Yoshi brings abilities and skills that the brothers do not possess. Together, they demonstrate that the heroes are strongest when they cooperate. The conflict between Bowser and Bowser Jr. also reaches an important turning point. One of Bowser Jr.'s creations turns against him. The creation becomes a threat to Bowser Jr.'s own life, forcing Mario to make an important decision. Mario could potentially allow his enemy to be destroyed, but instead he chooses to save him. Mario destroys the dangerous creation in order to protect Bowser Jr. This moment reflects one of the movie's larger themes, the difference between defeating an enemy and choosing not to become consumed by hatred. Mario and Bowser have been enemies for years, but Mario still refuses to allow an innocent life to be lost simply because that character belongs to the opposing side. The decision also affects Bowser Jr.'s character. His entire journey began because he wanted to save and honor his father. Yet his obsession with restoring Bowser ultimately placed his own life in danger. Mario's decision to save him provides a contrast to Bowser Jr.'s destructive approach. While the battle continues, Rosalina is dying. Peach is faced with an emotional choice and uses her newly discovered powers to revive her sister. This is where the emotional and cosmic storylines finally merge. Peach and Rosalina combine their powers and use the energy of the cosmos to transform planet Bowser. Instead of allowing the planet to remain a symbol of destruction, they terraform it into a new world. The transformation represents rebirth. A place created through conflict becomes a place capable of supporting new life. The sisters' power is therefore not simply destructive or defensive. It can also create and restore. The conclusion of the battle leaves the characters with the responsibility of rebuilding. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi return to the Mushroom Kingdom and assist Peach, Rosalina, the Toads, and the Lumas in rebuilding Peach's castle. The destruction caused by the adventure has left physical damage behind, but the rebuilding process symbolizes the restoration of peace. The characters are no longer exactly the same as they were at the beginning. Mario and Luigi have experienced another enormous adventure and have strengthened their partnership with Yoshi. Peach has discovered her cosmic origins and reunited with her long-lost sister. Rosalina has survived and regained her role as protector of the Lumas. Even Bowser Jr. has been forced to confront the consequences of his obsession with his father. Fox McCloud eventually sends Bowser and Bowser Jr. to prison before returning to his own universe. His involvement in the adventure therefore comes to an end with the restoration of order. Fox's departure also reinforces the movie's wider Nintendo crossover concept. The characters have temporarily crossed paths, but each universe remains distinct. The final storyline returns to the Gateway Galaxy, where Yukiki attempts another robbery. Princess Daisy intervenes and prevents him from committing the crime. This ending provides a lighter conclusion after the enormous cosmic battle. Rather than ending exclusively with destruction, death, or another massive confrontation, the movie closes with smaller-scale comedy and the continuing adventures of its characters. Overall, the story of the Super Mario Galaxy movie is much larger than a simple battle between Mario and Bowser. At its heart, the movie combines three major storylines. The first is the cosmic adventure involving Rosalina, the Lumas, the Comet Observatory, and the galaxies. This part of the story expands the Mario universe beyond the Mushroom Kingdom and introduces a much larger mythology. The second is the family conflict involving Bowser and Bowser Jr. Bowser Jr.'s actions are motivated largely by his desire to reconnect with his father and prove his worth. His misguided attempt to honor Bowser eventually creates a threat that could destroy the universe. The third is Peach's personal discovery of her true identity. Learning that Rosalina is her sister fundamentally changes her understanding of where she came from. Peach's cosmic heritage also transforms her from a traditional princess into one of the most powerful characters in the story. These three elements eventually come together during the final confrontation. Mario and Luigi provide the heroic foundation of the story, but they are not the only characters responsible for saving the day. Yoshi becomes an important ally, Peach discovers her cosmic powers, Rosalina provides the knowledge necessary to understand the larger threat, and even the Lumas play an essential role in moving the heroes across the universe. The film also repeatedly emphasizes the importance of family. Bowser Jr. wants his father back. Peach discovers her sister. Rosalina protects the Lumas as an adoptive mother. Mario and Luigi continue to rely on their brotherly bond. Even Yoshi's journey is connected to the idea of finding where he belongs. This makes the movie's enormous cosmic setting surprisingly personal. Although the story involves galaxies, spaceships, cosmic weapons, and planetary transformation, the characters are ultimately motivated by relationships. Bowser Jr. wants to prove himself to Bowser. Peach wants to save Rosalina. Rosalina wants to protect the Lumas. Mario wants to protect his friends. Luigi wants to stand beside his brother. Yoshi wants to help the people who have accepted him. The enormous stakes therefore grow out of very recognizable emotional motivations. The film also continues Mario's traditional theme of adventure while introducing a stronger sense of discovery. In the first movie, Mario enters a strange world and gradually learns how the Mushroom Kingdom operates. In this sequel, the characters already understand that extraordinary worlds exist. The mystery has therefore moved outward. The question is no longer simply what exists beyond Brooklyn. It is what exists beyond the Mushroom Kingdom itself. The answer is an enormous universe filled with galaxies, creatures, cosmic civilizations, strange worlds, and hidden histories. The transformation of Planet Bowser is especially meaningful because it suggests that the future does not have to be defined by the conflicts of the past. Bowser's world begins as an instrument of destruction but is transformed into a new world. This mirrors the characters themselves. Peach discovers that her past was hidden, Rosalina survives a devastating crisis, Bowser Jr. learns painful lessons about his relationship with his father, and Mario and Luigi continue to evolve as heroes. Ultimately, the Super Mario Galaxy movie presents its greatest adventure as a story about connection. Mario and Luigi are connected by brotherhood. Peach and Rosalina are connected by their shared origins. Rosalina is connected to the Lumas through love and responsibility. Bowser Jr. is connected to Bowser through family, even when that relationship becomes destructive. Yoshi becomes connected to Mario and Luigi through friendship. The characters may come from different worlds, galaxies, and even universes, but their relationships allow them to work together. The movie's conclusion therefore does more than simply defeat the villains. It restores balance. Rosalina survives. Peach discovers her family. Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi return home. The Mushroom Kingdom begins rebuilding. Planet Bowser becomes a new world. Fox returns to his universe. Bowser and Bowser Jr. are imprisoned. And the Lumas remain connected to Rosalina. The story ends with the sense that the universe is once again stable, but the characters' discoveries have opened the door to countless future adventures. In this way, the Super Mario Galaxy movie expands the Mario cinematic universe from a story about one kingdom into a story about an entire cosmos. The film uses the familiar rivalry between Mario and Bowser as its foundation, but builds upon it with themes of family, identity, redemption, friendship, sacrifice, and renewal. What begins with the kidnapping of Rosalina eventually becomes a journey across galaxies and a revelation about Peach's forgotten origins. What begins as Bowser Jr.'s attempt to rescue his father ultimately becomes a lesson about the dangers of obsession. And what begins as another Mario adventure ultimately becomes a story about how characters from different worlds can come together to create something better than what existed before. The Super Mario Galaxy movie brings together a large voice cast to expand the cinematic version of Nintendo's Mario universe. While Mario and Luigi remain at the heart of the story, the sequel significantly increases the number of major characters surrounding them. The cast includes returning performers from the Super Mario Bros. Movie as well as several major new actors who portray characters introduced from other parts of the Mario and Nintendo universes. One of the most important aspects of the cast is that each character has a distinct function within the story. Mario remains the central hero, while Luigi provides the emotional and comedic contrast to his brother. Princess Peach becomes considerably more important because the film reveals her connection to Princess Rosalina. Bowser and Bowser Jr. provide the principal conflict, but their relationship gives the villainous side of the story an emotional dimension. Yoshi becomes a new companion for Mario and Luigi, while characters such as Fox McCloud broaden the film beyond the traditional Mushroom Kingdom setting. The voice performances are therefore important not simply because recognizable actors are attached to famous Nintendo characters, but because the performers help translate familiar video game personalities into a feature-length animated story. Chris Pratt as Mario. Chris Pratt returns as Mario, the central protagonist of the story. Mario is an Italian-American plumber originally from Brooklyn who has become one of the most important heroes in the Mushroom Kingdom. Following the events of the previous movie, Mario is no longer an inexperienced outsider. He has already experienced the Mushroom Kingdom, fought Bowser, helped save Peach, and demonstrated that he is capable of becoming a hero. In the Super Mario Galaxy movie, however, his responsibilities become much larger. Mario's journey now takes him beyond the Mushroom Kingdom and into outer space. This change in scale allows the character to demonstrate a different kind of courage. In the previous adventure, Mario had to overcome the fear and uncertainty of entering a completely unfamiliar world. In the sequel, he understands that strange worlds exist, but the dangers he encounters are far more enormous. His relationship with Luigi remains one of the most important parts of his characterization. Mario is generally the more confident and adventurous brother, while Luigi is more cautious. This contrast creates humor, but it also gives Mario a responsibility toward his younger-looking brother, even though Luigi is actually his twin. Mario's relationship with Peach also continues to be important. However, Peach is portrayed increasingly as a capable hero in her own right. Mario is therefore not simply rescuing Peach. Instead, they work together during the cosmic crisis. Mario also develops a friendship with Yoshi. Yoshi becomes a valuable member of the group, and their partnership gives Mario a new companion outside his immediate relationship with Luigi. One of Mario's most important qualities in the film is his willingness to protect others even when they are his enemies. During the final confrontation, Mario saves Bowser Jr. from one of his own creations. This moment demonstrates that Mario's heroism is based on compassion as well as physical courage. Anya Taylor-Joy as Princess Peach. Anya Taylor-Joy returns as Princess Peach, the ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom. In the sequel, Peach receives one of the most significant character developments in the entire story. In the first movie, Peach was already a strong and capable leader. She knew the Mushroom Kingdom better than Mario and played an active role in preparing him for the battle against Bowser. The sequel takes her character in an entirely different direction by revealing her hidden connection to Rosalina. Peach discovers that Rosalina is her long-lost older sister. This revelation dramatically changes the meaning of Peach's identity. She is not simply the princess who happens to rule the Mushroom Kingdom. Her origins are connected to the cosmos itself. Peach and Rosalina were born from stardust, giving Peach a connection to the supernatural forces surrounding the Comet Observatory and the Lumas. This also explains why Peach can interact with cosmic power. The relationship between Peach and Rosalina becomes one of the emotional centers of the movie. Peach has spent much of her life separated from her original family without knowing the truth. When she finally discovers Rosalina, she is not simply meeting another powerful princess. She is discovering a missing part of herself. This gives Peach an additional motivation to save Rosalina. Peach's role also becomes especially important during the climax. She uses her powers to revive Rosalina, and together they use their cosmic abilities to transform Planet Bowser into a new world. This makes Peach an essential participant in the resolution rather than a character waiting for Mario to solve everything. Charlie Day as Luigi. Charlie Day returns as Luigi, Mario's timid younger twin brother. Luigi continues to serve as a contrast to Mario. Mario tends to move toward danger, while Luigi often reacts to danger with fear or uncertainty. However, Luigi's nervous personality should not be confused with cowardice. Throughout the story, Luigi repeatedly proves that he is willing to help his brother and friends even when he is afraid. His role is especially important because the film places him in several unusual situations. At one point, Bowser Jr. uses the Super Scope to transform Mario and Luigi into babies. This makes both brothers physically vulnerable and creates one of the film's major comedic sequences. Luigi's relationship with Mario remains one of the most recognizable relationships in the story. The two brothers may have different personalities, but they operate as a team. Luigi also contributes to the cosmic adventure by communicating with the Lumas. His ability to alert them eventually helps the heroes reach the Comet Observatory. This demonstrates that Luigi's contribution is not simply about fighting. He can also solve problems through communication and observation. The character's timid nature therefore becomes part of his charm. Luigi does not need to stop being frightened in order to become brave. His bravery comes from continuing to act despite his fear. Jack Black as Bowser. Jack Black returns as Bowser, the king of the Koopa. Bowser remains one of the most recognizable figures in the Mario universe, but his role in the sequel is more complicated than simply being the villain who wants to conquer the Mushroom Kingdom. After his defeat by Mario and Luigi, Bowser has been reduced to a vulnerable state. His relationship with his son, Bowser Jr., becomes one of the central elements of the story. Bowser Jr. wants to restore his father and prove his loyalty to him. This gives Bowser a strange position in the story. He is still dangerous and selfish, but he is also the father at the center of his son's emotional obsession. Bowser's interactions with Mario are also important. The rivalry between them remains intact, but the film occasionally allows them to cooperate or at least negotiate. When Mario's actions restore Bowser to his normal size, Bowser does not immediately become the unstoppable villain viewers might expect. At one point, he agrees to be arrested in exchange for helping Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi reach the Gateway Galaxy. However, Bowser eventually returns to his old ways. His relationship with Bowser Jr. becomes particularly important because he realizes that his son has been pursuing him after years of separation. Bowser's decision to return to his old behavior is partly connected to his attempt to repair his relationship with his son. This gives Bowser an emotional dimension that was less prominent in the first film. Keegan-Michael Key as Toad. Keegan-Michael Key returns as Toad, one of Peach's most loyal companions. Toad is an anthropomorphic mushroom from the Mushroom Kingdom, but his role is considerably more than simply providing jokes. He is closely connected to Peach and remains one of the characters who consistently supports her decisions. His loyalty becomes especially important when Peach leaves the Mushroom Kingdom to search for Rosalina. Toad also becomes involved in one of the film's lighter adventures when his backpack is stolen by Yukiki. The incident leads the characters toward the Gateway Galaxy Casino and eventually helps them obtain information about Rosalina's whereabouts. Toad's nervousness and enthusiasm create humor, but he is still an active participant in the group's mission. His willingness to follow Peach into dangerous environments reinforces his loyalty to the Mushroom Kingdom. Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. Benny Safdie voices Bowser Jr., Bowser's son, and the Prince of the Koopa. Bowser Jr. is one of the most important new characters in the film because his motivations are directly connected to the previous movie's ending. He has not seen his father for years, and Bowser's defeat has left him determined to restore his father's power. Bowser Jr. therefore becomes the main driving force behind the crisis involving Rosalina. His plan is extremely dangerous. He wants to drain Rosalina's powers and use them to fuel a weapon capable of destroying the universe. However, Bowser Jr. does not necessarily view himself as a villain in the traditional sense. From his perspective, he is trying to honor and rescue his father. This makes him emotionally understandable even when his actions are destructive. His relationship with Bowser is complicated. Bowser Jr. wants recognition and affection from his father, but he expresses those feelings through increasingly destructive actions. The film's climax forces Bowser Jr. to confront the consequences of his choices. When one of his creations turns against him, he is placed in danger. Mario could simply allow his enemy to suffer the consequences, but he instead destroys the creation to save Bowser Jr.'s life. This moment becomes an important lesson for Bowser Jr. He learns that Mario is not simply the enemy who defeated his father. Mario is capable of showing mercy even to someone who has endangered the entire universe. Donald Glover as Yoshi. Donald Glover voices Yoshi, a friendly green dinosaur who becomes one of Mario and Luigi's closest companions. Yoshi's introduction is particularly significant because he provides a new relationship for Mario and Luigi. The character has a unique backstory. Yoshi had hatched in Brooklyn and became involved in an unusual incident involving a dinosaur skeleton in a museum. After accidentally breaking the skeleton, he was pursued back toward his home world. This makes Yoshi another character caught between worlds. Mario and Luigi eventually befriend him, and Yoshi becomes part of their group. His abilities prove extremely useful during the adventure. Perhaps the most important example occurs when Mario and Luigi are transformed into babies. Yoshi finds the Super Scope and uses it to restore the brothers. He also rescues them from a Tyrannosaurus, demonstrating that he is more than comic relief. Yoshi's presence also introduces a playful energy to the group. Mario and Luigi have a familiar brotherly dynamic, while Yoshi adds another type of friendship. His relationship with the brothers develops naturally through shared danger. By the end of the movie, he has become an essential member of their team. Glen Powell as Fox McCloud. Glen Powell voices Fox McCloud, a Red Fox mercenary and space pilot from another galaxy. Fox is one of the most significant additions because his presence expands the film beyond the Mario universe. Fox's role is closely connected to the story's transition into space. Mario, Peach, Luigi, Toad, and Yoshi need someone capable of navigating the cosmic environment, and Fox provides exactly that ability. He pilots the R-Wing, his iconic spacecraft, and transports the heroes across the galaxy. Fox's involvement also introduces the possibility of broader connections between different Nintendo properties. The Mario universe no longer feels isolated. Characters from other franchises can appear naturally within the expanded cosmic setting. However, Fox is not simply introduced for spectacle. His role is practical. Without his piloting skills, the heroes would struggle to reach their destinations. His R-Wing eventually crash lands in Fossil Falls after an attack by Bowser Jr., demonstrating that even an experienced space pilot cannot completely avoid the dangers of the Bowser's campaign. Fox ultimately helps restore order by sending Bowser and Bowser Jr. to prison before returning to his own universe. Brie Larson as Princess Rosalina. Brie Larson voices Princess Rosalina, one of the most important new characters in the film. Rosalina is a princess from outer space and the adoptive mother of the Lumas. She lives aboard the Comet Observatory and serves as a guardian figure for the small star-like creatures. Her character introduces the film's cosmic mythology. Rosalina is not simply another princess waiting to be rescued. She is a powerful figure connected to the universe itself. Her kidnapping by Bowser Jr. is therefore particularly dangerous because he wants to exploit her powers. Rosalina becomes the source of energy for a plan that could potentially destroy the universe. Her relationship with the Lumas also gives the character emotional depth. Although they are not her biological children, Rosalina has adopted them and acts as their protector. The most important development involving Rosalina, however, is her relationship with Peach. Rosalina and Peach are revealed to be sisters. Rosalina is Peach's older sister, and the two were separated when they were young. Rosalina sent infant Peach to the Mushroom Kingdom to protect her from an unknown attacker. This means Rosalina's history is directly connected to Peach's entire life. Her eventual reunion with Peach therefore becomes one of the film's most emotional moments. Rosalina's powers are also essential to the ending. When she is dying, Peach uses their shared cosmic power to revive her. Together, the sisters transform Planet Bowser into a new world. Luis Guzman as Wart. Luis Guzman voices Wart, a Toad crime boss and the owner of the Gateway Galaxy Casino. Wart provides another example of how the film incorporates characters outside the central Mario cast. His casino becomes important when Yukiki steals Toad's backpack and takes it there. Wart possesses information that Peach needs. She forces him to reveal Rosalina's location, learning that Rosalina is being held in the space junk galaxy. However, Wart is not particularly trustworthy. After revealing the information, he alerts the Bowsers about Peach. This makes him an opportunistic character whose primary concern is protecting his own interests. Issa Rae as the Honey Queen. Issa Rae voices the Honey Queen, a large queen bee who rules the Honey Hive galaxy. The Honey Queen expands the world-building of the film by showing that different galaxies contain their own leaders and societies. Her association with the Honey Hive galaxy helps make the cosmic setting feel like a collection of distinct worlds rather than one generic space environment. The presence of a ruler like the Honey Queen suggests that the universe contains many independent communities and civilizations. Kevin Michael Richardson as Carmack. Kevin Michael Richardson reprises his role as Carmack, Bowser's Magikoopa advisor and informant. Carmack is one of Bowser's most trusted servants. His role is particularly important because Bowser often depends on information and magical assistance. Carmack represents the organized side of Bowser's kingdom and remains loyal to him even after his defeat. Carmack also helps maintain continuity between the previous film and the sequel. Eric Bauza as the Blue Toad General. Eric Bauza returns as the Blue Toad General in Peach's royal court. The character represents the organized military and governmental structure surrounding Peach. While Peach is the ruler, the Toad General helps demonstrate that the Mushroom Kingdom is not simply a collection of individuals. It has a functioning royal court and leadership system. His presence contributes to the feeling that the Mushroom Kingdom continues to exist as a society even while its principal characters are away on their cosmic adventure. Juliet Jelenic as Lumily. Juliet Jelenic voices Lumily, a blue Luma who appeared in the previous movie. Lumily has an unusual personality. Unlike the cheerful and optimistic image often associated with small magical creatures, Lumily is characterized by a nihilistic attitude. This creates an intentionally strange contrast with the adorable appearance of the character. In the new movie, Lumali's circumstances have changed. After previously being held prisoner by Bowser, Lumali now works as a prison guard where the Bowsers are sent after their defeat. This provides a humorous form of role reversal. The character who was once imprisoned by Bowser is now connected to the prison holding Bowser. Roxana Ortega as Yukiki. Roxana Ortega voices Yukiki, a monkey thief living in the Gateway Galaxy. Yukiki contributes to one of the film's smaller comedic storylines. When Yukiki steals Toad's backpack and carries it to the hidden casino, the theft forces Peach and Toad to investigate the Gateway Galaxy's criminal environment. Yukiki therefore serves as a catalyst for the characters to discover important information. The character's mischievous nature also creates a lighter tone during an otherwise serious cosmic mission. Pepper and Virginia Dare as the Lumas. Pepper and Virginia Dare, the daughters of co-director Michael Jelenic, collectively provide voices for the Lumas. The Lumas are star-like adopted children who live under Rosalina's protection. Although each Luma may be small, together they represent one of the most important aspects of Rosalina's character. Rosalina's identity as an adoptive mother gives her a strong emotional connection to them. Her concern for their safety helps explain why she is so important to the cosmic community. The Lumas also have a practical role in the adventure. After Luigi alerts them, they help transport the heroes to the Comet Observatory. Their ability to interact with cosmic forces allows the protagonists to travel through environments that would otherwise be inaccessible. The Lumas therefore function as both characters and a representation of the magical side of the Mario universe. Ed Scudder as ROB. Story supervisor Ed Scudder voices ROB, a robot who works in the Gateway Galaxy. ROB is another character whose presence demonstrates the filmmaker's willingness to incorporate familiar Nintendo elements into the wider cinematic world. His mechanical identity contrasts with the organic characters surrounding him. ROB's association with the Gateway Galaxy also contributes to the strange mixture of fantasy, science fiction, comedy, and video game-inspired world-building that defines the movie. The importance of the ensemble. The biggest strength of this cast is the variety of characters it brings together. Mario and Luigi represent family and heroism. Peach and Rosalina represent sisterhood, identity, and cosmic heritage. Bowser and Bowser Jr. represent a complicated father-son relationship. Yoshi represents friendship and belonging. Toad represents loyalty to Peach and the Mushroom Kingdom. Fox McCloud represents the expansion of the story into the wider Nintendo universe. The Lumas represent family in a different form, because Rosalina's relationship with them is based on adoption and care rather than biology. Wart and Yukiki introduce the criminal side of the Gateway Galaxy, while the Honey Queen demonstrates that the individual galaxies have their own communities and leaders. The supporting characters also help keep the movie from becoming dominated by the central Mario-Bowser rivalry. Because there are so many different relationships and personalities, the story can move between comedy, action, fantasy, family drama, and cosmic adventure. The casting also creates a balance between returning performers and new voices. Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, and other returning actors provide continuity with the first movie. New performers such as Benny Safdie, Donald Glover, Glen Powell, and Brie Larson introduce characters who expand the world dramatically. Most importantly, the characters are connected by relationships rather than simply existing as isolated cameos. Mario and Luigi remain brothers. Mario and Yoshi become friends. Peach and Rosalina discover that they are sisters. Rosalina and the Lumas share a parent-child relationship. Bowser Jr. seeks his father's approval. Fox becomes the group's pilot and ally. Even the villains are given relationships and motivations that make them more than obstacles for the heroes. The casting therefore supports the movie's larger theme. The universe is enormous, but relationships connect its inhabitants. The film begins with characters separated across different worlds. Mario and Luigi are connected to Brooklyn and the Mushroom Kingdom. Rosalina is connected to the Comet Observatory. Yoshi is connected to his dinosaur homeland. Fox comes from another galaxy. Bowser and Bowser Jr. have their own conflict. By the end, these separate characters have become part of one interconnected story. That is what makes the ensemble so important to the Super Mario Galaxy movie. The sequel is not merely introducing more famous Nintendo characters for the sake of recognition. It is using them to make the Mario universe feel larger, more diverse, and more interconnected. Mario remains at the center, but the film makes it clear that he cannot save the universe alone. He needs Luigi. He needs Yoshi. He needs Peach. Peach needs Rosalina. Rosalina needs the Lumas. The group needs Fox to cross the galaxies. And even characters such as Toad, Wart, Yukiki, Kamek, and the Honey Queen contribute to the chain of events that eventually leads to the final confrontation. This interconnected cast gives the Super Mario Galaxy movie a much larger sense of scale than its predecessor. The first movie established Mario's world. The sequel attempts to establish an entire cosmic network of worlds, characters, families, and civilizations. At the emotional center of that expansion are Mario and Peach, Peach and Rosalina, and Bowser Jr. These relationships give the movie its heart. Mario's courage protects his friends. Peach's discovery of Rosalina gives her a new understanding of herself. Rosalina's love for the Lumas explains her willingness to sacrifice herself. Bowser Jr.'s love for his father motivates his dangerous plan. And Mario's decision to save Bowser Jr. shows that heroism ultimately means more than defeating an enemy. The cast is therefore designed around a central idea: every character has someone or something they are trying to protect. That makes the enormous cosmic adventure emotionally understandable. Behind the galaxies, spaceships, magical powers, monsters, and video game-inspired action are characters who are searching for family, friendship, belonging, recognition, and redemption. That combination of recognizable Nintendo characters and emotional storytelling is what allows the ensemble of the Super Mario Galaxy movie to function as more than a collection of famous names. Each performer contributes to a larger world in which Mario's adventure has become a shared journey involving characters from across the Mushroom Kingdom and beyond. Ultimately, the cast represents the movie's evolution from a simple Mario adventure into a much broader cinematic universe. Mario and Luigi remain the foundation. Peach becomes more powerful and more mysterious. Rosalina gives the story its cosmic mythology. Yoshi expands Mario's circle of friends. Bowser and Bowser Jr. provide a more emotionally complicated form of villainy. Fox McCloud opens the door to another Nintendo universe. The Lumas provide warmth and wonder. Toad provides loyalty and comedy. And the supporting characters fill the galaxies with personalities that make the universe feel alive. The result is an ensemble in which almost every major character contributes something different to the story. Together, they transform the Super Mario Galaxy movie into a story not only about defeating Bowser, but about discovering where the characters come from, whom they consider family, and how seemingly separate worlds can become connected through a shared adventure. The development of the Super Mario Galaxy movie was the result of several years of planning, discussion, experimentation, and creative decisions following the enormous success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Rather than being created immediately after the first film, the sequel gradually developed from Nintendo's broader interest in animated adaptations, the commercial performance of the first movie, ideas about which characters should appear next, and the filmmaker's desire to make the second adventure substantially larger. The development process is particularly interesting because the final movie was not necessarily the exact project that the filmmakers first imagined. Ideas changed over time. Characters who were initially intended to be central to the story were eventually given different roles, while concepts from multiple Mario games were combined to create a larger cinematic adventure. At the beginning of this process was Nintendo's changing attitude toward animated films. Nintendo's growing interest in animation. In May 2021, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa discussed the possibility of creating more animated films based on Nintendo's intellectual properties. At that time, the first Mario movie was still being developed, so Nintendo did not yet know how audiences would respond to it. However, the company recognized that its video game characters represented a huge collection of stories and worlds that could potentially be adapted into animation. Nintendo had spent decades building recognizable characters such as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, Yoshi, Donkey Kong, and many others. These characters had already developed enormous international audiences through video games. The possibility of bringing them into animated feature films therefore offered Nintendo a way to expand its storytelling beyond interactive entertainment. The important condition was success. Nintendo was interested in producing additional animated films if the Mario project performed well. This meant that the future of the cinematic Mario universe was initially dependent on audiences accepting the first movie. The success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie eventually changed everything. The post-credits tease and Yoshi. One of the most important early indications of where a potential sequel might go came from the post-credits scene of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The scene teased Yoshi. Yoshi is one of the most recognizable characters associated with Mario. For decades, he has appeared as Mario's dinosaur companion, playable character, mount, and independent hero. Because Yoshi was teased at the end of the first film, audiences immediately began speculating about what his involvement might mean for a sequel. Would Yoshi simply become Mario's companion? Would the next movie focus heavily on Yoshi? Could Yoshi receive an entire story of his own? These questions became important during the early development process. Interestingly, Yoshi's eventual role in the Super Mario Galaxy movie was different from what might initially have been expected. Instead of making the entire sequel simply a Yoshi-centered adventure, the filmmakers incorporated him into a much larger story involving outer space, Rosalina, the Lumas, Bowser Jr., and the galaxy-inspired worlds. The eventual film still retained the idea that Yoshi had a connection to Brooklyn. However, the concept was transformed into part of his backstory rather than becoming the sole foundation of the movie. This demonstrates how development ideas can evolve considerably between the earliest concept and the final screenplay. Jack Black and the possibility of Wario. Another interesting element during the early period of development involved Jack Black, who voices Bowser. Black expressed interest in Pedro Pascal potentially voicing Wario in a future sequel. Wario is one of Mario's most recognizable rivals and is a character with a completely different personality from Bowser. Whereas Bowser is generally presented as a powerful king and traditional antagonist, Wario is more selfish, greedy, mischievous, and comedic. The idea of introducing Wario demonstrates how broad the possibilities were after the success of the first movie. The Mario universe contains an enormous number of characters. The filmmakers could potentially choose from decades of video game history. However, Wario ultimately did not become the primary focus of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Instead, the sequel moved in a different direction, choosing Bowser Jr., Rosalina, Yoshi, the Lumas, and characters from the broader Nintendo universe. This is important because it shows that the filmmakers were not simply trying to fill the sequel with every recognizable Mario character. They were trying to find a story that could support a larger cinematic adventure. The success of the first movie changes the situation. When the Super Mario Bros. Movie became a major box office success, the possibilities for Nintendo and Illumination changed dramatically. In April 2023, Nintendo stated that more films based on its properties were being considered. Although Nintendo did not immediately announce a Mario sequel, the success of the first film made the continuation of the franchise much more realistic. The original movie had demonstrated that a Mario film could appeal not only to children but also to adults who had grown up playing Nintendo games. This was especially important because Mario has one of the broadest audiences in entertainment. Children could enjoy the colorful animation, humor, action, and characters, while longtime Nintendo fans could appreciate the references to the games. A successful sequel therefore had to satisfy both groups. It needed to feel accessible to newcomers while also rewarding people who had followed Mario for decades. Chris Pratt's comments and the writers' strike. In June 2023, Chris Pratt, who voices Mario, indicated that a sequel would eventually be announced. However, there was an important complication: the Writers Guild of America strike. The strike affected Hollywood productions and screenwriting schedules, meaning that even if the studio and Nintendo wanted to move forward, production could not simply continue as normal. This is a useful reminder that major animated movies require years of preparation. A feature-length animated film needs a screenplay, storyboards, character designs, environments, voice performances, animation, editing, music, sound design, visual effects, and many other stages of production. A delay at the screenplay stage can influence the entire production schedule. Therefore, the development of the Mario sequel had to move carefully. Jack Black's musical idea. During this period, Jack Black continued to show enthusiasm for returning as Bowser. In December 2023, he expressed interest in a sequel that could be titled Bowser's Revenge and suggested the possibility of making it a musical. This idea was particularly interesting because Bowser's musical performance in the first film had become one of its most memorable comedic elements. Bowser's musical personality gave Jack Black an opportunity to combine the character's intimidating appearance with exaggerated theatricality. A full musical sequel centered on Bowser could have taken the franchise in a completely different direction. Instead of emphasizing cosmic adventure, it could have focused more heavily on Bowser's personality, his relationship with Mario, and his desire for revenge. The eventual movie did not follow this exact idea. However, the suggestion illustrates how many different creative possibilities were being discussed during the development of the sequel. The official announcement in 2024. The major turning point came in March 2024 during a Mario Day presentation. Illumination CEO and producer Chris Meledandri and Mario creator Shigeru Miyamoto officially confirmed that a new Mario film was being developed. This was the moment when the project moved from speculation into a confirmed production. The announcement also confirmed that the creative team behind the first movie would continue. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic returned as directors. Matthew Fogel returned as the screenwriter. Chris Meledandri continued his role as producer and represented Illumination's involvement. Shigeru Miyamoto's participation was especially significant because he is one of the most important creative figures in the history of Mario and Nintendo. Miyamoto's involvement helped maintain a connection between the film and the original video game identity of Mario. The return of Horvath and Jelinek also provided continuity. They already understood how the first movie had translated Mario's world into animation. They knew the personalities of the characters, the comedic style, the pacing, and the visual language established in the first film. Instead of completely reinventing the franchise, the sequel could therefore build on an existing foundation: storyboarding and new environments. At the time of the announcement, Meledandri explained that Illumination's team was already working on storyboards and developing set designs for new environments. This detail reveals how early major visual planning begins for an animated film. Storyboards are extremely important in animation because they provide a visual blueprint for the movie. Before a scene is fully animated, filmmakers need to decide how characters move, where the camera goes, how action is staged, how jokes are timed, and how scenes transition into one another. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, this stage would have been particularly important because the sequel was designed to be broader in scope. The filmmakers were no longer limited to familiar Mushroom Kingdom environments. The movie would involve galaxies, planets, spaceships, cosmic structures, strange landscapes, and locations inspired by different Mario games. This meant that the art department had to develop an enormous variety of environments. The sequel therefore represented a major visual expansion. From Mushroom Kingdom to the cosmos. The most important creative decision was to make the Galaxy games a central inspiration. Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 became the core sources of inspiration for the movie. These games are particularly suited to cinematic adaptation because they introduced Mario to an extraordinary collection of planets and galaxies. Instead of a traditional world consisting of one large connected map, the Galaxy games present a universe of smaller worlds, each with its own visual identity, physics, challenges, enemies, and atmosphere. This concept offered the filmmakers enormous creative freedom. They could move Mario and his companions from one environment to another without being restricted to a single visual style. One galaxy could look like a jungle. Another could resemble a space station. Another could be filled with mechanical structures. Another could be covered with honey and inhabited by enormous bees. Another could resemble a field of floating debris. This variety became essential to the sequel's identity. The filmmakers could create a movie that constantly feels like it is moving into a new world. The influence of Super Mario Galaxy 2. The sequel game also contributed ideas to the film. Super Mario Galaxy 2 expanded the concepts introduced by the original Galaxy and included additional characters, mechanics, worlds, and challenges. Using both games as inspiration allowed the filmmakers to avoid limiting the movie to one specific video game storyline. Instead, they could take individual concepts, characters, locations, visual ideas, and gameplay elements and reorganize them into a new cinematic narrative. This is a common challenge when adapting video games. A game can rely on the player controlling a character, exploring environments, repeating challenges, and discovering secrets at their own pace. A movie cannot operate in exactly the same way. A film needs a continuous narrative with character development, emotional stakes, and carefully controlled pacing. The filmmakers therefore had to translate the spirit of the Galaxy games rather than simply reproduce one game's plot. Surprises for fans of every Mario era. Chris Meledandri explained that although the Galaxy games were the central inspiration, the movie would contain surprises for fans from different periods of Mario history. This decision is important because Mario is not a franchise belonging to only one generation. Different fans grew up with different versions of Mario. Some remember the original 2D platformers. Others grew up with Super Mario World. Some became fans through the Nintendo 64 era and Super Mario 64. Others know Mario primarily from the GameCube, Wii, Wii U, or Switch generations. There are also fans who know Mario through spin-off games such as Mario Kart, Mario Party, Super Smash Bros., and many others. Therefore, the filmmakers wanted the sequel to feel like a celebration of Mario's entire history. This also explains why the movie could include characters and concepts that were not directly necessary for the central Galaxy storyline. The goal was to create an experience in which longtime Nintendo fans might repeatedly recognize familiar ideas. At the same time, the story needed to remain understandable to people who had never played the games. That balance is one of the biggest challenges in adapting a decades-old franchise. The Yoshi movie that never was. One of the most fascinating pieces of development history concerns Yoshi. According to Shigeru Miyamoto, the sequel was originally planned as a Yoshi movie. This is particularly interesting because Yoshi had already been teased at the end of the first movie. The initial concept apparently involved Yoshi being in Brooklyn. That idea could have produced a much smaller and more character-focused story. Instead of sending Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, and their companions across galaxies, the filmmakers could have focused on Yoshi's experiences in the human world. The Brooklyn setting would also have connected Yoshi to Mario and Luigi's original home. However, the concept eventually changed. The idea of Yoshi being in Brooklyn was not completely abandoned. It was transformed into a montage sequence in the final movie. This is a perfect example of how an early development idea can survive even when the overall story changes. The filmmakers did not necessarily throw away the concept. They found another place for it. This also allowed Yoshi to retain a meaningful connection to Brooklyn while becoming part of the larger galaxy adventure. The evolution of Princess Peach. Another major development decision involved Princess Peach. In the first movie, Peach was deliberately portrayed as a strong, capable, and confident leader. She was not the traditional damsel in distress. She understood the Mushroom Kingdom, knew how to navigate dangerous environments, trained Mario, and actively participated in the fight against Bowser. This was an important modernization of the character. However, Shigeru Miyamoto later explained that the filmmakers believed this version of Peach was not enough. The problem was not that Peach was too strong. The issue was that strength alone does not necessarily make a character emotionally relatable. A character can be brave and capable while still experiencing uncertainty, fear, sadness, frustration, affection, or vulnerability. Therefore, the sequel attempted to add more emotional dimensions to Peach. Peach's worries and emotions. In the Super Mario Galaxy movie, Peach is given more worries and emotional struggles. This makes her feel less like an idealized heroic figure and more like a person. This development becomes particularly important when she discovers that Rosalina is her long-lost older sister. The revelation forces Peach to reconsider her entire identity. For most of her life, she has understood herself as the ruler of the Mushroom Kingdom. Now she discovers that she has a hidden cosmic heritage. She also learns that Rosalina has been separated from her for years. This gives Peach emotional uncertainty that was not central to her characterization in the first film. She is powerful, but she is also capable of being confused. She can lead others, but she can still struggle with personal questions. She can fight enemies, but she can also experience fear and emotional pain. The filmmakers therefore sought to make her strength more human. Her relationship with Mario. The development of Peach's character also affected her relationship with Mario. The sequel gives more attention to relationship fluctuations between the two characters. This means that their relationship is not necessarily presented as permanently perfect. They can disagree. They can misunderstand each other. They can experience emotional tension. They can also support one another. This is an important storytelling technique because relationships become more believable when characters do not always agree. Mario and Peach are both strong personalities. Mario is adventurous and impulsive. Peach is responsible and highly aware of the dangers surrounding the Mushroom Kingdom. Their different personalities naturally create opportunities for conflict. But those differences can also make their relationship stronger because each character brings something different to the partnership. The sequel therefore attempts to move Peach and Mario beyond a simple romantic dynamic. They become two people who care about one another while also dealing with the pressures of an enormous adventure. Peach's relationship with Rosalina. The introduction of Rosalina gives Peach another major emotional relationship. This is perhaps the biggest character development in the entire movie. Peach learns that Rosalina is her older sister. The discovery changes the way Peach understands her past. It also gives her a reason to care about the cosmic conflict that goes beyond simply saving the universe. She is trying to save family. This makes the central conflict more personal. Rosalina's importance also gives Peach a new emotional responsibility. Peach must confront the possibility that she could lose someone who has only just returned to her life. This creates a different kind of tension from the physical danger of fighting Bowser. Peach can defeat enemies with courage and skill, but she cannot simply punch away the emotional consequences of discovering a lost sister. This is where the sequel's attempt to make Peach more emotionally relatable becomes particularly important. The decision to keep the movie fast-paced. Another major creative decision involved the movie's pacing. Shigeru Miyamoto explained that the fast pace was intentional. The goal was to keep both children and parents engaged. This is a particularly important consideration for an animated family film. The movie has to work for children who may prefer constant movement, humor, action, colorful characters, and rapid changes in location. At the same time, adults watching with them need enough story, character relationships, jokes, and emotional moments to remain invested. A slow, heavily exposition-driven Mario movie could lose younger viewers. But a movie containing nothing except action could become exhausting or emotionally shallow for older viewers. The filmmakers therefore had to find a balance. The galaxy concept naturally supports fast pacing because the characters can move rapidly from one world to another. Instead of spending most of the movie in one location, the story can introduce a new galaxy, new character, new challenge, and new visual environment. This keeps the movie visually energetic. The pacing also reflects the experience of playing Mario games. Mario games frequently move players between different levels, environments, challenges, enemies, power-ups, and objectives. The movie translates some of that sensation into cinematic form. The characters are constantly moving. They encounter a problem. They overcome it. They enter another environment. They encounter another problem. The story continues. This creates an adventure that feels energetic and accessible. The challenge of balancing story and spectacle. Fast pacing, however, creates a major storytelling challenge. If a movie moves too quickly, emotional moments may not have enough time to develop. This is why the development of Peach's emotional side becomes particularly important. The action moves quickly, but the characters still need reasons to care about what happens. This balance is crucial. The movie cannot simply be a series of references and action scenes. The audience needs to understand why Mario wants to save someone. Why Peach cares about Rosalina. Why Bowser Jr. is willing to risk everything. Why Rosalina wants to protect the Lumas. Why Luigi follows Mario even when he is afraid. These emotional motivations give meaning to the fast-paced adventure. A broader scope. Keegan-Michael Key later described the sequel as being broader in scope. This is one of the most important differences between the first and second films. The first movie primarily introduced the audience to the basic structure of the Mario universe. There was Brooklyn. There was the Mushroom Kingdom. There were Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Donkey Kong, and Bowser. The sequel begins with that foundation and expands it dramatically. Now there are multiple galaxies. There is the Comet Observatory. There are Lumas. There is Rosalina. There is Yoshi. There is Fox McCloud. There are new villains and supporting characters. There are additional Nintendo references. There are new environments. The scale is therefore not merely larger physically. The mythology is larger. The universe has more history. The characters have more complicated relationships. And the filmmakers have more opportunities to explore Nintendo's enormous library. New characters and deep cuts. Key also teased the presence of new folks and old favorites, including characters that longtime fans might consider deep cuts. This approach reflects the filmmakers' understanding of the Mario audience. Some characters are immediately recognizable to almost everyone. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser, and Yoshi are globally famous. Other characters are known mainly by dedicated Nintendo fans. Including lesser-known characters allows the movie to reward viewers who have spent years exploring Mario games. A casual viewer may simply see an amusing new character. A longtime fan may recognize the character's history and appreciate the reference. This creates multiple layers of enjoyment. The movie can therefore operate simultaneously as a straightforward animated adventure and as a celebration of Mario's history. The development philosophy. Taken together, these development decisions reveal a clear philosophy. The filmmakers did not want to make exactly the same movie again. A simple repeat of the first film would have been predictable. Instead, they expanded the world. They took the central Mario characters and moved them into space. They introduced Rosalina and the Lumas. They incorporated Yoshi. They expanded Peach's emotional characterization. They introduced elements from Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. They opened the door to characters from other Nintendo properties. They also retained references to Mario's earlier history. This creates a sequel that attempts to be both bigger and more emotionally complex. The first film established the characters. The sequel develops their relationships. The first film introduced the Mushroom Kingdom. The sequel explores the universe beyond it. The first film presented Peach as a strong leader. The sequel asks what exists behind that strength. The first film established Bowser as an enemy. The sequel explores Bowser's relationship with his son. The first film teased Yoshi. The sequel gives him a meaningful role in the adventure. The development of the Super Mario Galaxy movie therefore demonstrates how a successful franchise can evolve. The filmmakers were not simply adding more characters or increasing the number of action scenes. They were attempting to broaden the emotional and geographical scope of the story. Conclusion. The development of the Super Mario Galaxy movie was shaped by the extraordinary success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, Nintendo's growing interest in animated adaptations, the popularity of Mario's enormous character library, and the desire to create a sequel that felt substantially larger than its predecessor. The project went through several conceptual possibilities. Yoshi was initially considered for a much more central role. Wario was discussed as a possible future character. Jack Black imagined a musical direction centered on Bowser. The eventual story, however, moved toward the cosmic world of Super Mario Galaxy. Aaron Horvath and Michael Jelenic returned to direct, Matthew Fogel returned to write, and Chris Meledandri and Shigeru Miyamoto continued to guide the production. The Galaxy games became the primary inspiration, but the filmmakers deliberately avoided restricting themselves to one era of Mario. Instead, they attempted to create a movie filled with recognizable elements from the franchise's long history. Perhaps the most important creative development involved Princess Peach. The filmmakers realized that simply making Peach strong was not enough to make her fully relatable. In the sequel, she receives greater emotional depth. She experiences uncertainty, worries, relationship tensions, and personal discoveries. Her connection with Rosalina makes that development especially significant. Peach is no longer only a princess defending her kingdom. She is also a person discovering her own history. At the same time, the decision to maintain a fast pace reflects the movie's intended audience. The filmmakers wanted children and parents to remain engaged, so the story moves rapidly between characters, galaxies, action sequences, jokes, emotional moments, and new discoveries. Ultimately, the development of the Super Mario Galaxy movie can be understood as an attempt to answer a simple question. How do you make a sequel to one of the world's most recognizable video game movies without simply repeating the first one? The answer was to expand everything. Expand the setting from the Mushroom Kingdom to the cosmos. Expand the cast from the original Mario group to characters from across Nintendo's history. Expand Bowser from a straightforward antagonist into a father struggling with his relationship with his son. Expand Yoshi from a post-credits tease into an important member of Mario and Luigi's team. And expand the story from a conflict over one kingdom into an adventure involving the fate of an entire universe. The result is a sequel designed to feel familiar enough that audiences recognize the Mario they already love, but different enough to justify another journey. The development of the Super Mario Galaxy movie represents an important stage in the expansion of Nintendo's animated film universe. After the enormous success of the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the next challenge for Nintendo and Illumination was to create a sequel that could retain the recognizable characters and humor of the first film while introducing a much larger world. The sequel eventually became the Super Mario Galaxy movie, a title that immediately communicated the direction of the new story. Whereas the first movie focused heavily on Mario's arrival in the Mushroom Kingdom and his battle with Bowser, the new title suggested something much broader. The word Galaxy indicated that the characters would leave the familiar boundaries of the Mushroom Kingdom and enter a much larger cosmic environment. The official title was announced by Nintendo in September 2025 during a Nintendo Direct presentation. This announcement was significant because it transformed years of speculation about the sequel into a clearly defined project. The title also connected the film directly to one of the most celebrated eras of Mario's video game history. Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 had introduced players to a universe of planets, galaxies, gravity-based gameplay, unusual environments, and cosmic characters. By using the Galaxy name, the movie immediately told longtime fans that the sequel would draw heavily from this part of Mario's history. At the same time, the title was simple enough for audiences unfamiliar with the games to understand. People did not need to have played Super Mario Galaxy to know that the word Galaxy suggested an adventure in outer space. This combination of familiarity and mystery helped establish the identity of the sequel. The return of the original cast. The September 2025 announcement also confirmed the return of several major performers from the first movie. Chris Pratt returned as Mario. Anya Taylor-Joy returned as Princess Peach. Charlie Day returned as Luigi. Jack Black returned as Bowser. Keegan-Michael Key returned as Toad. Kevin Michael Richardson also returned as Kamek. The return of these performers was important because the first movie had already established a particular interpretation of the characters. Mario and Luigi had developed a recognizable brotherly relationship. Peach had become a confident and capable leader. Bowser had developed a comedic personality alongside his villainous role. Toad had become one of Peach's loyal companions. Kamek remained closely connected to Bowser. Changing the voices of these central characters could have made the sequel feel disconnected from the first film. By bringing the original cast back, the filmmakers maintained continuity. The returning performers also understood the tone of the characters by this point. They had already spent time developing their personalities and comedic rhythms. This was particularly useful for a sequel because the filmmakers could focus on expanding the world instead of having to reintroduce every major character from scratch. Brian Tyler's return. Another important element confirmed during the title announcement was the return of composer Brian Tyler. Music is particularly important in a Mario film because the franchise has one of the most recognizable musical identities in video game history. The movie needs to balance original cinematic music with the feeling associated with Nintendo's games. The first movie established a musical language that combined orchestral film scoring with recognizable Mario themes. Having Tyler return helped preserve that continuity. The sequel also presented a much larger musical challenge. The first movie largely moved between Brooklyn and the Mushroom Kingdom, while the sequel explores galaxies, cosmic locations, alien environments, spaceships, and new characters. The score therefore had to help differentiate these environments. Music could make a galaxy feel mysterious. It could make another location feel playful. It could create tension during a confrontation with Bowser Jr. It could provide emotional weight during Peach's discovery of Rosalina. And it could make the appearance of a character like Fox McCloud feel distinct from the traditional Mario cast. The trailer announcement. 2 months after the title was announced, Nintendo presented another major piece of information. On November 12, a Nintendo Direct presentation dedicated to the film's trailer was released. This was an important moment because audiences were finally able to see more of the sequel rather than relying only on announcements and speculation. A trailer for a major animated movie has several jobs. It needs to communicate the story without revealing everything. It needs to introduce new characters. It needs to demonstrate the visual style. It needs to show returning characters. And it needs to convince audiences that the sequel offers something new. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the trailer was particularly important because the title had already promised a major change in scale. Fans wanted to know what Galaxy actually meant. Would Mario visit familiar worlds from the games? Would Rosalina appear? Would Yoshi finally become part of the main story? Would Bowser return? Would additional Nintendo characters be introduced? The trailer began answering those questions. The introduction of Rosalina and Bowser Jr. The November trailer announcement also revealed 2 important new casting decisions. Brie Larson was announced as the voice of Princess Rosalina. Benny Safdie was announced as the voice of Bowser Jr. These 2 characters were especially important because they represented 2 different sides of the sequel story. Rosalina represents the cosmic side. She is connected to the Comet Observatory, the Lumas, and the wider universe. Bowser Jr. represents the family and villainous side. His relationship with Bowser becomes one of the major motivations behind the central conflict. The casting therefore gave audiences an early indication that the sequel would not simply repeat the Mario vs. Bowser story from the first movie. Rosalina's inclusion suggested that the film would explore the mythology of the Galaxy games. Bowser Jr.'s involvement suggested that Bowser's story would become more personal. Brie Larson as Rosalina. Brie Larson's casting brought a major new voice to the Mario cinematic universe. Rosalina is a character with a different personality from Peach. Peach is a ruler and active participant in the affairs of the Mushroom Kingdom. Rosalina is more closely associated with the cosmos and acts as a guardian figure for the Lumas. Her character also has a mysterious history. In the movie, Rosalina eventually becomes connected to Peach in a way that changes Peach's understanding of her own origins. The casting therefore had to communicate both authority and emotional vulnerability. Rosalina is powerful, but she is also a caretaker. She is a princess, but she is also an adoptive mother. She is connected to enormous cosmic forces, but she has personal relationships that matter deeply to her. Larson's role therefore contributes significantly to the emotional side of the film. Benny Safdie as Bowser Jr. Benny Safdie's casting as Bowser Jr. similarly added an important new personality to the franchise. Bowser Jr. is not simply a younger version of Bowser. His motivation is different. He wants his father's approval. He wants to restore Bowser's power. He wants to prove that he is worthy of being Bowser's son. These motivations become the reason for his dangerous plan involving Rosalina. Bowser Jr.'s presence also changes Bowser's role. In the first movie, Bowser was primarily focused on Peach and the Mushroom Kingdom. In the sequel, his relationship with his son becomes central. This gives the villainous side of the story a family dynamic that had not been as prominent previously. The final trailer and the expansion of the cast. The next major casting revelation occurred with the final trailer on March 9, 2026. The final trailer announced 3 additional performers. Donald Glover, Issa Rae, Luis Guzman. These performers expanded the film's cast considerably. Donald Glover as Yoshi. Donald Glover's casting was particularly significant because Yoshi had already been teased at the end of the first film. Yoshi is one of Mario's most beloved companions and has existed in Nintendo's universe for decades. Glover's role therefore carried special importance. One unusual aspect of the casting was that Glover voiced Yoshi in all dubbed versions of the movie. This means that his performance was treated as the central voice interpretation of the character rather than simply being replaced by different actors in different language versions. The decision gave Yoshi a consistent vocal identity across the film's international releases. Glover had also expressed a desire to appear in a Nintendo film. His involvement therefore had a personal connection to his interest in the franchise. Yoshi's role in the movie became much more substantial than a brief cameo. He becomes a companion to Mario and Luigi and contributes directly to the adventure. His abilities are especially important when Mario and Luigi are transformed into babies. Yoshi's ability to locate the Super Scope, rescue the brothers, and restore them to their normal ages makes him an essential part of the team. The casting therefore allowed the filmmakers to turn a character teased in the first movie into one of the central members of the sequel's group. Issa Rae as the Honey Queen. Issa Rae was announced as another new member of the cast. She voices the Honey Queen, a major figure associated with the Honey Hive galaxy. The Honey Queen helps expand the sense that the Mario universe contains distinct civilizations and rulers beyond the Mushroom Kingdom. Her presence contributes to the feeling that the galaxies are not simply empty levels for Mario to explore. They are populated worlds. They have their own inhabitants. They have their own leaders. They have their own cultures. This is an important part of making the galaxy setting feel larger. Luis Guzman as Wart. Luis Guzman was also announced as part of the cast. He voices Wart, a Toad crime boss and the owner of the Gateway Galaxies casino. Wart's role brings another kind of environment into the film. The Gateway Galaxy is not simply a place for heroic exploration. It also contains criminal activity, gambling, theft, and characters who operate outside Peach's authority. This provides a different tone from the Mushroom Kingdom. Wart's involvement becomes important when Peach and Toad need information about Rosalina. His casino becomes a location where the heroes must negotiate with someone whose interests do not necessarily align with theirs. The casting of Fox McCloud. One of the biggest casting announcements came only days before the film's release. Glen Powell was revealed as the voice of Fox McCloud. Fox is the protagonist of the Star Fox series and is one of Nintendo's best-known characters outside the Mario franchise. His appearance therefore represents a major expansion of the cinematic universe. Fox is not a Mushroom Kingdom character. He comes from a different Nintendo world. His role is directly connected to the film's space-traveling storyline because Fox is a skilled pilot. He flies an R-Wing and becomes responsible for transporting Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, and Yoshi through the galaxy. The casting of Fox is therefore logical within the story. The character is not included simply as a surprise cameo. His skills are directly relevant to the plot. The fact that Fox is a space pilot makes him a natural ally for Mario's cosmic adventure. Glen Powell's personal connection to Fox. The casting of Glen Powell also had an interesting personal story. Powell had reportedly wanted to be part of a Star Fox film for years. The idea of portraying Fox McCloud was therefore particularly meaningful to him. Donald Glover had a similar motivation. He had always wanted to appear in a Nintendo film. After the first Mario movie was released, both actors pitched themselves for their respective roles. Chris Meledandri eventually contacted them about joining the project. This means that the casting was not simply a studio decision based on celebrity names. The actors themselves had strong interest in the characters. That kind of enthusiasm can be valuable for a project built around iconic video game properties. When an actor already understands why a character matters to fans, they may approach the role with a different level of commitment. Fox's inclusion and the Star Fox legacy. The appearance of Fox McCloud was also meaningful to people connected with the Star Fox franchise. Argonaut Games, which had an important role in the development of the Star Fox series, reportedly felt proud when Fox appeared in the film. Takaya Imamura, a designer associated with the Star Fox series, was deeply moved by Fox's inclusion and expressed gratitude toward Shigeru Miyamoto. This demonstrates that the movie was not simply borrowing a random Nintendo character. Fox represents decades of Nintendo history. For longtime fans, seeing him appear in a major animated film could feel like recognition of a franchise that had not previously received the same cinematic attention as Mario. Miyamoto and the future of Star Fox and Yoshi. Shigeru Miyamoto later revealed that their appearance in the film encouraged development of a new Star Fox game and a new Yoshi game for the Switch too. This is a fascinating example of how a film adaptation can influence the original video game franchise. Normally, audiences think of games being adapted into movies. But here, the relationship works in both directions. The movie takes inspiration from Nintendo's games. Then the movie's use of characters can generate renewed interest in those characters. That interest can contribute to new game development. The film therefore becomes part of a broader cycle in which games inspire movies and movies help expand interest in games. For Yoshi, the effect is especially interesting because his cinematic introduction began with the first movie's post-credits tease. For Fox, the effect is even more significant because his appearance opens new possibilities for Star Fox. The Nintendo Cinematic Universe can therefore function as a showcase for characters who may later receive additional attention in interactive media. Freedom in the Japanese dub. Another interesting part of the film's production involved the Japanese language version. The Japanese dub actors were given freedom to improvise their dialogue. This is significant because dubbing can sometimes involve extremely strict adherence to the original dialogue. However, allowing actors to improvise gives the localized performance an opportunity to develop its own personality. Improvisation can make dialogue feel more natural. It can also help actors adapt jokes and emotional reactions to the language and cultural context of their audience. For a comedy-heavy animated film, this can be particularly useful. A joke that works perfectly in English may not have exactly the same effect when translated word for word. Allowing performers some flexibility can help preserve the intended comedic rhythm. The same principle can also apply to character personality. If an actor understands the emotional intention of a scene, they may be able to express it more naturally in Japanese than by following a rigid translation. This approach demonstrates that Nintendo and the filmmakers were paying attention to the international nature of the Mario franchise. Mario is not an American property that happens to have an international audience. It is a Japanese-created video game franchise that has become globally recognized. The Japanese version therefore deserved its own creative identity. Animation and design. The scale of the sequel also created enormous demands on the animation team. Like the first movie, the Super Mario Galaxy movie was animated by Illumination Studios Paris in Paris, France. Illumination Studios Paris played a central role in transforming the storyboards, designs, performances, and environments into finished animation. Animation is often misunderstood as a process in which artists simply draw a movie. In reality, a modern computer-animated feature requires an enormous production pipeline. The process includes storyboarding, character design, environment design, modeling, rigging, animation, lighting, effects, rendering, compositing, editing, sound, music, and many additional stages. For a movie as visually diverse as the Super Mario Galaxy movie, the work becomes even more complicated. The artists have to create characters that can move naturally while still resembling their video game designs. They must create environments that feel like Mario worlds but also work as cinematic locations. They must develop cosmic effects, space environments, explosions, magical abilities, and large-scale action sequences. Production begins. Production was already underway by March 2024. This means that the film was being actively developed at the same time the public announcement was made. This is common for major animated films. Studios often work on projects for years before audiences see significant footage. The public announcement is therefore not the beginning of production. It is simply the moment when the studio decides to officially reveal the project. By the time audiences learned about the sequel, Illumination's teams had already been developing storyboards, characters, environments, and other aspects of the production. This long production period was necessary because animated movies can take years to complete. Finishing animation in 2025. Animation was reportedly completed in November 2025. This represented a major milestone. Completing animation does not necessarily mean the movie is completely finished. There are still many stages that can remain. Post-production can include final editing, lighting adjustments, visual effects, sound mixing, music integration, dubbing, and other technical processes. The completion of animation means that the primary animated material has been produced, but the final version still needs to be assembled and polished. Post-production begins. In January 2026, Chris Meledandri confirmed that animation had been completed and post-production had begun. This placed the movie in its final major stage before release. Post-production is particularly important for a film with large-scale cosmic environments. Even after animation is completed, artists may need to refine lighting, atmosphere, special effects, and compositing. The visual quality of a galaxy scene can depend heavily on these finishing processes. For example, a space environment may require stars, nebulae, glowing objects, cosmic particles, and atmospheric effects. A magical power-up may require lighting and particle effects. A large explosion may require multiple layers of visual effects. These details help transform basic animation into a finished cinematic image. Fox's backstory scene. One specific scene involving Fox McCloud received particular attention during the animation process. The scene in which Fox explains his backstory was animated by Benjamin Faw. This detail is interesting because it suggests that Fox's introduction was not simply a brief cameo. The filmmakers wanted audiences to understand who Fox was and where he came from. For viewers familiar with Star Fox, this information could provide additional context. For audiences who had never played Star Fox, the scene could function as an introduction to a completely new character. This was especially important because Fox enters a movie dominated by Mario characters. The audience needs enough information to understand why Fox is there and why he is capable of helping the heroes. The design philosophy. The animation and design of the Super Mario Galaxy movie had to accomplish something difficult. It had to remain faithful to Mario's visual identity while expanding the world dramatically. The filmmakers could not make the characters look so realistic that they stopped feeling like Mario characters. At the same time, they needed enough cinematic detail to make galaxies and space environments feel convincing. The solution was to combine the recognizable shapes and proportions of Nintendo's characters with Illumination's expressive animation style. Mario still needs to look like Mario. Luigi needs to look like Luigi. Peach needs to remain recognizable. Bowser needs to maintain his iconic silhouette. Yoshi needs to retain the features that make him immediately identifiable. Rosalina needs to look like the cosmic princess audiences know from the games. Fox must retain his distinctive Star Fox appearance. The environments then need to be designed around these characters. This is especially challenging with characters like Yoshi and the Lumas because they have very distinctive game-inspired designs. Their movements need to feel natural while still retaining the charm of the source material. The importance of the galaxy setting. The galaxy setting gave the animation team enormous freedom. Unlike a movie set mostly in one kingdom, the sequel could constantly introduce new visual concepts. One scene could take place aboard the Comet Observatory. Another could take place in a strange galaxy filled with floating objects. Another could feature the Honey Hive Galaxy. Another could involve Fossil Falls. Another could take the characters to Planet Bowser. Each environment could have its own colors, shapes, lighting, architecture, creatures, and atmosphere. This variety is one of the defining characteristics of the Galaxy games, and it translates naturally into animation. The visual design therefore becomes part of the storytelling. When the characters enter a new galaxy, the audience immediately understands that they are entering a different world. The animation does not need to explain everything verbally. The environment itself communicates the change. The broader meaning of the production. The casting and animation decisions together show how ambitious the sequel became. The movie was no longer simply a continuation of Mario's first cinematic adventure. It was becoming a broader Nintendo experience. The inclusion of Yoshi expanded Mario's immediate world. Rosalina expanded the cosmic mythology. Fox McCloud expanded the universe beyond Mario. The Honey Queen and Wart expanded the range of supporting characters. The Lumas expanded Rosalina's emotional world. And the galaxy setting expanded the visual scale. The casting process also reflected this ambition. Actors were not simply selected to replace voices from the games. They were selected to create cinematic performances. The performers had to deliver comedy, emotion, action, and personality. The fact that Powell and Glover actively pitched themselves for their roles demonstrates the cultural significance of Nintendo's characters. These are characters that actors themselves grew up with and wanted to portray. The connection between games and film. One of the most interesting aspects of the production is the relationship between the video games and the movie. The film draws from Super Mario Galaxy. It incorporates Yoshi. It brings in Fox McCloud. It uses ideas from multiple Nintendo eras. And then, according to Miyamoto, the movie's use of Fox and Yoshi helped encourage the development of new games featuring those characters. This creates a circular relationship between Nintendo's different forms of entertainment. Games inspire films. Films introduce characters to new audiences. Audience interest can encourage new games. New games can then inspire future films. The Mario franchise is therefore not limited to a single medium. It is becoming an interconnected entertainment universe. Conclusion. The announcement, casting, and animation of the Super Mario Galaxy movie demonstrate how the sequel grew into a much larger project than a simple continuation of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The September 2025 title announcement officially established the Galaxy identity. The return of Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, Keegan-Michael Key, and Kevin Michael Richardson maintained continuity with the original film. Brian Tyler's return helped preserve the musical identity of the series. The November trailer introduced major new characters such as Rosalina and Bowser Jr., voiced by Brie Larson and Benny Safdie. The March 2026 final trailer expanded the cast further by introducing Donald Glover as Yoshi, Issa Rae as the Honey Queen, and Luis Guzman as Wart. Then, just days before release, Glen Powell's casting as Fox McCloud revealed one of the movie's biggest surprises. Fox's inclusion was significant not only for Mario fans but also for Star Fox fans. Powell had wanted to play Fox, while Glover had wanted to participate in a Nintendo film. Their enthusiasm helped bring two major Nintendo characters into the cinematic universe. The involvement of Fox and Yoshi also had consequences beyond the movie, encouraging Nintendo to develop new games featuring both characters. The Japanese dubbing process added another interesting dimension by allowing actors room to improvise their dialogue, helping create performances that could feel natural in the Japanese language rather than functioning as rigid translations. Behind all of this was the enormous animation effort of Illumination Studios Paris. Production had already begun by March 2024. Animation was completed in November 2025. Post-production began in January 2026. These dates reveal how much work went into producing the film. Every character, galaxy, spaceship, magical effect, action sequence, and emotional scene had to pass through a lengthy creative and technical pipeline. The animation team also had the difficult responsibility of translating the visual identity of the Galaxy games into a feature film environment. The result is a project that represents more than a sequel. Music plays a particularly important role in the Super Mario Galaxy movie because the Mario franchise has one of the most recognizable musical identities in video game history. For decades, Nintendo's Mario games have used memorable melodies to establish locations, characters, emotions, challenges, and entire worlds. As a result, bringing Mario to the big screen involves more than simply creating a conventional animated film score. The music has to work as cinematic storytelling while also preserving the musical spirit of the games that inspired the characters and environments. For the Super Mario Galaxy movie, this responsibility became even more important because the film was heavily inspired by Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. Those games are remembered not only for their imaginative planets and gameplay but also for their distinctive orchestral sound. The sequel therefore needed a musical identity that could connect several different generations of Mario fans. Younger viewers could enjoy the music as exciting cinematic scoring, while longtime Nintendo players could recognize melodies and musical ideas associated with the games. Brian Tyler's return. On September 12, 2025, it was reported that Brian Tyler would return to compose the score for the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Tyler had already composed the score for the Super Mario Bros. Movie, meaning that he was familiar with the cinematic version of the Mario universe. His return was important for continuity. The first movie had established a musical language that combined original film scoring with themes inspired by Nintendo's games. Tyler's return allowed the sequel to build on that foundation rather than completely reinventing the sound. This was particularly valuable because the second film needed to feel connected to its predecessor. The audience should recognize that the new adventure belongs to the same cinematic world. At the same time, the sequel needed to sound different enough to communicate its new setting. The first film was heavily associated with Brooklyn, the Mushroom Kingdom, Donkey Kong's jungle environment, and Bowser's Kingdom. The second film moves into galaxies and outer space. Therefore, Tyler had a much larger musical landscape to work with. His task was essentially to take the established Mario movie sound and expand it into a cosmic environment. The importance of Mario's musical history. Mario's music is different from the music of many other movie franchises because audiences often recognize the melodies before they even know where the music comes from. The original Super Mario games introduced simple but extremely memorable themes. Over the years, Nintendo expanded that musical language. Different Mario games introduced new melodies, orchestral arrangements, character themes, world themes, and musical styles. Super Mario Galaxy represented one of the biggest changes in that history. Instead of relying primarily on electronic game music, the Galaxy games made extensive use of orchestral music. This gave the games a cinematic quality even before Mario became a movie character. The music could sound enormous during a space adventure. It could become emotional during a story moment. It could become mysterious when Mario entered an unfamiliar galaxy. And it could become energetic during platforming sequences. That musical flexibility made the Galaxy games an obvious source of inspiration for a movie about cosmic adventure. Themes from Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. The score for the Super Mario Galaxy movie includes arrangements of themes from both Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. This decision is important because the filmmakers were not simply borrowing the title of the games. They were also drawing from their musical identity. The original Galaxy game introduced a powerful orchestral sound that became closely associated with the idea of Mario traveling through space. Its music helped make the galaxies feel majestic and mysterious. Super Mario Galaxy 2 continued and expanded that approach. By using themes from both games, the movie can connect with fans who remember either one. This is also a way of respecting the history of the source material. Rather than creating an entirely new musical universe, the filmmakers are able to incorporate sounds that audiences already associate with Mario's cosmic adventures. However, the movie's score is not simply a collection of game tracks. The music has to be rearranged and adapted for the needs of a feature film. Video game music and film music serve different purposes. A video game theme may repeat as the player explores a level. A film score needs to respond to specific scenes, dialogue, emotional changes, camera movements, action beats, and character development. A theme that works perfectly in a game may need to be expanded, shortened, transformed, or combined with another theme for the movie. This means Tyler's role is not simply to reproduce familiar melodies. He has to reinterpret them, creating a cinematic Mario sound. One of the biggest challenges of the sequel was creating a sound that could simultaneously feel familiar and new. If the score relied too heavily on old Mario themes, the movie could sound like a collection of game references. If it ignored the games entirely, longtime fans might feel that the movie had lost an important part of Mario's identity. The solution was to combine the two approaches. The score uses arrangements of familiar themes while also supporting the new story with original cinematic music. This allows the music to function on several levels. For a longtime Nintendo fan, a melody can trigger nostalgia. For a younger viewer, the same melody can simply sound like exciting orchestral adventure music. For the filmmakers, the music becomes a tool for connecting the past and present. The film's musical identity can therefore be understood as a bridge between the video game world and the cinematic world.